A very good morning to all the participants who are there witnessing and experiencing the national conference on NEP teaching, learning, evaluation process organized by Indira Mahavidyalaya. Very thankful to the principal, Dr. Mandavakar, and the faculty members who are part of the organizing committee of this very important and timely national conference. I'm thankful to Dr. Gajanan Londeji for connecting me to you all through the principal and students and other faculty members who are today participating in this national conference. It's very important that the students and the faculty members come together for the cause of implementing the national education policy and the future that the NEP foresees to transform the education system of our nation. So NEP 2020 is a policy for 21st century. It's a policy which gives a roadmap for how our higher education system, particularly because we all are in higher education sector today, but most importantly, also the school education, how these two are going to be critical for the development of the nation, as well as the development of individuals who are going to be part of this system. I think it is important for all of us to realize the key component of education as an instrument for not just for economic growth and development, but also for holistic development of each of the individual, whether it is the teacher, the student, or the administrator who are contributing to the cause of education. So NEP 2020 is an outcome of wide consultations and inputs that we have solicited and received across the nation and beyond. A large number of educationists, academics, experts, including the members of the committee, that is the drafting committee itself, were very much engaging proactively with the issues which are central for reforming and transforming the education system. At the same time, experts from various domains have also been consulted to understand the need of the particular issues that we are facing to be addressed. For example, we had experts in public finance looking into how higher education and school education must be rationalized in terms of funding. Similarly, for pedagogy, similarly for early childhood care and education, and so on and so forth. So almost all recommendations of the national education policy have been carefully and very much engaging discussed with experts, sought their inputs, debated, discussed across the members of the committee, and then the final version that is there in the paper that all of you are seeing is an outcome that is based on such wide consultations and deep interactions. So essentially, NEP is a document of all of us who are witnessing and experiencing education in our respective domains. Second important point of NEP, aligned to the theme of the conference, is NEP is a document which tries to create a very significant shift from the earlier erstwhile British education system to our own Nalanda Takshashila model of education. A model which is unique in its own sense, where we have read in history and we have also witnessed the historical underpinnings of Nalanda and Takshashila, who have been emphasizing on learning, emphasizing on multidisciplinarity, emphasizing on this whole nature of creativity, discovery-based learning, and so on and so forth, way back many centuries in the past. So NEP recommends revisiting our own ancient centers of higher learning and universities model to reflect upon what is required in our local context in order to build a global outlook and approach for our education system. Specifically, the quest for knowledge was not partitioned in a manner that we are accustomed to present. In the Nalanda Takshashila model, we did not have disciplines like geography, physics, chemistry, being in a vertical or a silo or differentiated. They were never not partitioned by discipline as we are today partitioning them. For example, we have the BCom, BA, BSc, law, etc., etc. Now, these are nothing but verticals. So we are creating watertight compartments, right? So especially between science, commerce, and arts or social sciences. So, but our ancient system does not partition them into disciplines or programs or courses. And that is what is the best example of a multidisciplinary ecosystem which the NEP is proposing as part of the teaching, learning, and assessment as a way forward. So the crux of the entire model of that ancient system was that the learner is in the heart of learning process and the teacher is more of a facilitator. Third is that NEP identifies various challenges which are affecting our teaching, learning, and assessment currently. And to overcome that, NEP, through this wide consultations that we had and the experts who came in for giving inputs, had recommended that we need to overcome specific challenges, which are 3 types of challenges among many challenges, specifically for teaching, learning, and assessment. First was less emphasis on the development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. We do not currently focus much on developing cognitive skills. We do not focus much on enabling learning outcomes, because these two are something which are now being done as more of outsiders requirement. That is, NAAC accreditation asks us to map course outcome, program specific outcome, learning outcome, etc. But in real sense, this means that we need to really work out day-to-day practices in teaching, learning, and assessment, where learning outcomes are emphasizing on cognitive development, particularly, and these learning outcomes are nothing less than just mapping, but actually making it happen in a particular classroom. So the emphasis on developing cognitive skills and learning outcome is not much in the current sort of practices in higher education. So there's a need to focus on it, is what NEP makes certain recommendation. The second challenge, which I mentioned earlier also in the context of Nalanda's model, is that we have a challenge today of rigid separation of disciplines with early specialization and streaming of students into narrow areas of study. So as you all know, a student who takes up science in PUC, pre-university, or 11th and 12th, they have a choice to get into commerce or arts. But why is that choice limited to social science and art student, that they cannot go to science or commerce, for example? So very early in their life of a student, they tend to get partitioned themselves into or position themselves into a discipline. And once the discipline framework emerges, they're unable to go beyond that, right? So NEP says this is not appropriate because this rigid separation of discipline affects the creativity, learning through practice, etc. So there should be flexibility and choice. That is why there is multiple entry and exit. That is why there's a proposal for multidisciplinarity, etc., as part of curriculum, teaching, and assessment. So that is one sub point under the second challenge, that is to overcome rigid separation of disciplines. Similarly, even teachers, faculty members like you and me are also getting narrowed by our disciplines, right? So we identify ourselves as teacher or faculty of science. Particularly, some people are very proud to say, I am a teacher of physics, I am a teacher of chemistry, I am a teacher of biology, or I am a teacher of history, I am a teacher of political science, etc. So this itself is a problem. We should not be calling ourselves as discipline-centric teachers, right? We are supposed to now look at much more multidisciplinary, where yes, we can anchor ourselves to a discipline, but that anchoring must be not necessarily streaming ourselves into narrow focus areas, but it should be more applied to a teacher of physics must be also seeing how they can contribute to social sciences or arts. A student or a teacher of science or social science can see how they can contribute to commerce. So that interrelationships are very, very important. On a lighter note to tell, often I've seen that the departments, when they are organized, so there is very difficult to go across the department also. There are so many boundaries almost like the line of control in the border or the China wall, which comes between the departments. I think NEP wants to overcome that. I think please don't have the wall between disciplines. Please don't have a borderline because it is very difficult to cross borderlines. So it is about how naturally you will come together as faculty of all disciplines, how new courses can be offered, how new techniques of teaching, how new methods of assessment can be thought through in a multidisciplinary ecosystem. The third challenge of NEP, which NEP identifies and for which recommendations are made, is that there is lesser emphasis on research in universities and colleges, and particularly in colleges, because I understand a lot of teachers in colleges have a lot of workload. Maybe you're teaching 16 hours to 20 hours per week, sometimes 22 hours, so etc. There is limited time. But there should be a sort of ecosystem or collaboration that you may want to think of, that you also make out some time for doing research for the sake of research, doing projects, etc. But at the same time, research for teaching. Because what happens is we tend to go by the curriculum. I understand, again, as an affiliating college, your curriculum is already given to you, right? So there's very limited space for you to, or autonomy to you to change. But what the university will not tell you is how to teach. That is autonomy, which is already there for you. So for that, if you're doing research meaning it will be as simple as looking up for on Google Scholar or Google some recent papers being published on the topic that you're teaching. And as new as the topic or a paper is, and if you can bring that in the classroom in your teaching, you can definitely go. That is as of now. But going forward with the reforms in governance and more autonomy given to higher education institutions, you will have autonomy not just for teaching, but also determining your curriculum as well as determining your assessment, which is currently not there. What you have now is freedom to teach in a classroom. 50 minutes or 1 hour of classroom is your time. So you can make it innovative. But what will come in future is, in addition to this, determining your curriculum as well as determining your assessment. Because there is a third type of institution called degree awarding autonomous college, where there is an option for institutions to be so autonomous that they can develop their own curriculum. So in essence, these are the overarching points. But specifically, what reforms are to be envisaged, what changes that we are going to see also is, now the undergraduate program is being proposed to be 4 years, right? And as you are aware, after 4 years, a student can enroll for PhD. They don't have to wait for master's or PhD, the other requirements which are there. So after 4 years. So there's a lot of accountability, a lot of responsibility on teachers to make that 4-year bachelor's program as a research-based undergraduate program where students develop incrementally. So don't bring research only in the 4th year. First year also, there should be some component of research, for example, how to read and write. Second year, they can actually write an essay or a detailed paper. Third year, they write a fieldwork-based project. And 4th year, they write a dissertation. So there is a responsibility now from university side and from the college side and from the teacher side to develop that research aptitude in the 4-year undergrad program with a multidisciplinary. Again, I'm repeating multidisciplinary as I reiterated in the previous slide also. But for what are we doing all this? So what is the purpose of doing this 4-year undergrad program with multidisciplinarity and so on and so forth? First is, this will help us to have an imaginative and a flexible curriculum structure. Right now, our curriculum is very rigid. Our curriculum is not imaginative, right? It is basically passed on from so many years, from one teacher to another teacher to another teacher, and students of so many years are just following it. So we really have to be very imaginative and also flexible in our curriculum structure. Second, this will help us to have creative combinations of disciplines. There's no harm in having physics, political science, and statistics as a combination. There's no harm in having management, psychology, and sociology as a combination, because we have never thought about it, right? This is an opportunity with the NEP in the background, with the NEP in the in the larger thought of the nation. I think this is a time that we need to really think that are we really having creative combination, or are these combinations not helpful? So history, economics, political science, HEP is a very popular combination. But is it really creative, or is it just an outdated combination? So that process will have to start now. Because if you don't do it with multiple entry exit, students will leave you and go to other institutions who are creative, right? So there is a pressure. Also, there's an opportunity. If you don't want to do it, then you will miss your students. If you have an opportunity now to do it, it's a great thing that you start doing it. Similarly, this is linked with now the new accreditation system, NAAC. This is linked with the outcome-based education and learning. This is also linked with the system which we are looking at as a multidisciplinary ecosystem, and so on and so forth. Essentially, what we are seeing is the NEP's recommendations are envisaging one, education as a continuum, that as teachers in college, please don't forget the students who are coming from school to college, that linkage, because all the reforms that are going to happen in school education is going to impact the higher education also. So that is a continuum. So a national curriculum framework, which is being drafted now under the same chairperson, Dr. K. Kasturirangan, who was also the chairman of the drafting committee of NEP. So there's a continuity at a policy level, because if you really want to see a reform in higher education, school education also must go through a change, which is also there in NEP, and now with NCF, it is getting more and more specific. So education as a continuum, that's a major shift. Second, the recommendations of NEP are mutually inclusive. A recommendation made under, for example, multiple entry exit, that is linked to multidisciplinarity, that is linked to credit system, that is linked to many other recommendations which are made. So no recommendation is exclusive. They are very much inclusive, interrelated. NEP looks for a learner-centric and an institution-centric approach with a lot of autonomy given to you. Essentially, we are seeing what is going to come is an education system which is of the institution, by the institution, and for its stakeholders or members who are part of the institution. So there is a very limited role and scope of external bodies to influence education in higher education institutions particularly. So it is of, by, and for the institution. That means you will have more autonomy, but with equally more and more sense of accountability. So it's a balance between autonomy and accountability rather than merely dependent on being completely autonomous. So what you have to do as a way forward as an institution, I have a few suggestions. One, at an institutional level, develop, and please don't wait for affiliating university or the government to give you directions, because 70% approximately of NEP recommendations don't need any government order or circular. It is institutions who have to take up responsibility, proactively start doing these reforms. What you can do to start with. First, as teachers and administrators who are part of the Indira Mahavidyalaya here, and as part of the conference outcomes, if you can develop tools or methods to recognize and identify and promote unique capabilities of each student. So today, unique capabilities of each student are very visible in terms of sports, in terms of cultural activities, but there are also academic capabilities which are unique to a student, but we need to identify that. That's our responsibility as teachers and as institution or college. Second, start thinking about, can you develop value-added courses, which are very much multidisciplinary, to start now for this year. As and when autonomy comes, you will be able to have your own regular programs. But at least for now, can you think of value-added courses where students are provided with life skills, soft skills, communication skills, multidisciplinary scopes? For example, science students can take up literature and art. Social science students can take up some basics of physics, etc. So that sort of a model within your own college level and space. Not always to do it for accreditation, but for real learning, because that's very important. Third is, at least within your college, can you think of breaking that silo, breaking the divide between disciplines? Try organizing interdisciplinary seminars So as I said, physics and, for example, political science, they can come together and organize some common seminars, for example, and at least at your level, you can start doing it. As we all know, Aristotle is the father of political science, the founder, but he was the person who was an expert or a scholar in physics, right? So we are referring to that Greek model to even till date. So it's not very, and Herodotus, who is also the father of history, comes from the natural sciences as their scholarly experience. So something has affected us over many years in the past. Now it's an opportunity to look into. Then fourth, you can look at holistic education, at least at a college level, with the help of a very dynamic principal, at least with what I've heard from Bhajan and Londeji and my little conversation with Dr. Mandavakar sir. I think with his leadership and your all faculty members together, if you all can come together and start observing, don't worry about giving tests, just make assessment through observation of students through NSS camp, NCC camp, cultural activities, so that holistic education is not just the curriculum, but also the co-curricular, extracurricular that you are going to contribute and provide, and observe them very carefully and see how the learning is shaping, how the person is evolving, how the individual, that is what is called as formative assessment, how a person is forming oneself from where they were to where they are. I think we have to be on our toes to be very active in observation. As I mentioned earlier, the life skills, that is communication, cooperation, teamwork, is something which you as faculty and students also at your college should learn, because those are all 21st century skills for survival and for professional career and way forward. And finally, NEP wants to end the coaching culture, where colleges are the place where they actually learn maximum. And that learning is only possible if we shift our focus from by-hearting and route learning to actually learning by fun, learning by joy, learning for something which I can apply. So have maximum reforms in assessment within the limitation. I know you are affiliating institution. So within that limitation, what kind of maximum reforms you can do by giving them surprise test, or not by surprise test, meaning not to give them by hearting as a way, but something like you give them a problem, right? About specific on gravitational laws or on social science issues, maybe a newspaper editorial, Marathi or English, you circulate in the class and say, let us discuss about it, right? I remember when I was teaching in one of the well-known institution in the country, National Law School of Bangalore. So for teaching secularism, I used to give them editorial newspapers as part of class and say, please read it, tomorrow we'll discuss about it. So there were many interesting experiences and knowledge which comes. And most students, after graduating, this is 7 years, 8 years ago, they always remember that experience. Sir, we remember your experiment that you did with us to read editorial, such a very helpful model. So I could do it without any constraints. So as I said, this is a classroom exercise. A teacher can take ownership and do the needful and enable that learning experience to be more applied, creative, critical, and problem solving. So in essence, what I say all of you is transforming education is in your hands. Policy is only giving you the support, the vision, and the backup. Now it is an opportunity for us to revisit. For the last many decades, we had not thought about reforming our education system. Now it is time. It will be too late for us to respond and keep waiting for the bodies to, our regulators to come and change this. So please make maximum autonomy what you have in your classroom. First, to start with, because that is our obligation as teacher, to make learning joyful and discovery based, to make maximum use of autonomy at an institutional level, from classroom to college. These two are in your hands. So make the best there, and then leave the rest to the affiliating university, state government, and central government while they are doing their job. Please don't forget our job at the classroom level, department level, and college level. So there you have to make learning discovery-based, joyful, creative, problem-solving, and multidisciplinary, and to keep the student or the learner at the heart of this process that we are all part of. With this, I wish a great success to the national conference. Very timely, very effective theme that you have chosen. I'll be happy to learn from the proceedings of the conference and the outcomes that are discussed there, because every institution is unique. Hence, your institution, I'm sure, will have a unique set of challenges and unique set of solutions for that. So I request respected principal sir to focus more on the solutions to the problem rather than discussing only the problems. I think it's a time for us to focus on what are the solutions that the participants, teachers, and students will be sharing for the problems they are facing. So solutions are the way forward. I'm sure they have very innovative solutions which we are not aware about. So we'll be happy to learn from it. Once again, namaste. Thank you so much and all the very best. Thank you for the opportunity.